we've really been a leader in the nation on making sure what we teach young people are life and job skills and connected to the labor market so they have a competitive advantage when they graduate. The lesson from the past is perseverance, of never giving up. And I understand, like, I'm not diminishing the challenges facing young people in our society, but we still live in a free, democratic nation, the best country on earth.
We've got a special guest in the house, a fantastic guest, and I'm very excited. The Honorable Minister for Education for the province of Ontario, Stephen Lecce. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good to be here.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you. And we've got a lot we want to talk about today. Short window, but we want to get as many topics in as possible. And, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you guys that I'm here with Danny.
What's going on, everyone?
He's here. And guys, smash that like button if you're watching this on YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe, leave us a comment, and let's get right into it. So, yeah.
Stephen, talk to us a little bit about, for those people that don't know who you are, what you do, and how you serve the province of Ontario.
So I have a pretty, I think somewhat unique experience because I didn't come from a political family, but what is unique about my story that I think relates to a lot of people is that my parents were immigrants. They came here and grandparents were immigrants to Canada. And, they came like a lot of people just seeking opportunity in like the new land, the new world. And it's crazy to think that, one generation ago, my parents took a boat. Like my father came to Ellis Island in New York. My grandmother remembers vividly seeing, Lady Liberty, as she would say, the Statue of Liberty, and that symbol of like that representation of freedom, of democracy, of human rights. And my mother remembers vividly her experience coming up to Pier 21 in Halifax. And we live in a pretty special place where like one generation later, a poor immigrant's child that had no language, no money, didn't really have a big network here, frankly, at that time, that their son or their daughter could rise to achieve whatever that is. In this case, it's, to get elected to be a minister, like it's really a special story about what's possible through hard work. And so a lot of love for the nunnies out there and all the grandparents and the parents who
sacrificed. Shout out to the
nunnies. Thank you. God bless the nunnas. But
the original pioneers, we like to call them.
They really are.
Yeah.
And my grandmother's 98. My other one's 99. They're both alive. And I often think about, I think we try to contextualize like the pressures of being a young person in Canada. We deal with real issues every day. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not taking away the challenges we have here. But like the idea of having to sit down and leave the only thing you've ever known, right? Like they didn't have internet back then. They didn't have telephones, really. Only later. They certainly didn't have televisions. They perhaps had a radio if you were wealthy in the community in that rural part of Italy, not too far from Rome, Soda. My mom's from Bari on the Adriatic. And the point in short is,
my wife's family's from Bari too.
Okay. Yeah. They're, let's say they're strong, opinionated people, colorful people, but like a beautiful part of Italy, very loving, very kind. They've got like that, it's like that BC chill energy, like it's the West Coast of Italy, but great people. All this to say is that they had the courage to really take a leap of faith. And to never give up and to never give in. And they face challenges, discrimination, so many issues upon their immigration experience. So for me, it's very motivating because I never forgot where I came from. My parents raised us to never forget our humble beginnings. And they also raised us to be proud Canadians because like this story, your story, frankly, right? Really is also a pretty awesome story too of young entrepreneurship. You guys built everything yourself. That's possible in this country. And I feel like so many young people have lost that fire in their belly because, there's difficulty around us. Houses are expensive, jobs are difficult to get, maybe relate to your skills. But I always want to like encourage people to lean into the challenge and to remember they sacrificed so we could be here and we can do this. And I want to honor them. So my story is really a recognition of my family's humble beginnings and like a determination just to work my ass off and do everything humanly possible to honor their sacrifice.
For sure, man. That's awesome.
I love it. Yeah, we have this similar journey where our parents do, where they came here, they met in Ontario,
right,
at church, and they got married and then had my brother and I. So we always say like on this show that, especially when we're talking about finance and money, that our struggles today are not their struggles. Yes, we've got struggles, as you mentioned,
right,
but they're not the same struggles. Like if I thought about right now picking up and moving to a different country with all the things you mentioned that our families did not have, we have.
Yes.
It's scary. It's still scary. And I wouldn't want to do it. They did it. And it's like,
when did your families come here?
both of our parents came here in the mid 80s.
Mid 80s.
Yeah. And they got married. And then 91, I was here. And
they were born
both in Iraq.
In Iraq.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's an experience of seeing real change.
For them, they
radical cultural changes and language. And
I think for them, it was mostly like they both have a lot of Iraqi Assyrians have similar stories of how they came here or to the US or to like Australia. And it's like, you talk to my dad, his stories one way and my mom's stories another way. But the thing behind it was they just didn't see the opportunity there and they were being persecuted.
Yeah. I mean, people don't appreciate like the ancient Christian, the indigenous population of the Middle East were the Christian community who've now, I mean, I think many people know ISIS. They know of these organizations that have really spent so much of the last decades trying to remove the ancient Christian communities of that region. It's sad, but I love that, you know, when I saw in Iraq and in Syria, these old churches that got just blown up by, by ISIS, and to see the church services in the space where you still see like the bullet holes and the bombs, and they brought back the parishioners to lead. Like for me, that is like light in darkness. It's like, my God. And it speaks about real faith, like literally big F faith, you know, regardless of if you have faith or not, but like just the idea that, you know, this community's faced such persecution. I feel like people don't know enough about that story. So appreciate your family's experience. They came here in the 80s. Mine came in the late 50s. And it's the same story. They came here for our generation to do this.
So sometimes when I'm talking to someone younger than me, and like we're all young here, but we're getting old. Let's be real.
Yeah.
If there's
I feel old.
How old are you now? 35?
No, I'm born 86, so 30. I'm 37. Yeah,
37.
I'll be soon enough, and if you've been the Minister of Education for 4 years, you feel like you're 67. Okay? So it's been a long run here, gentlemen. But
had some wrinkles, man.
A few for sure.
Me too. I do short videos now, and I'm like, ill. I'm like, I gotta get some Botox. I'm like, Sarah, where do I go?
But I honestly would never have guessed that you were like a day over 35. Honestly.
Okay, well, I'll take that. Those seriously. 2 years are precious. So thank you.
Yeah, but it's this whole idea when I talk to youth, just saying that, guys, like whatever it is, have that faith. Don't be demotivated by what's going on around you. Like even for myself, as an entrepreneur, it's like a roller coaster of emotion every single day.
Yep.
Right. And so one of the things that I use to get me through it, it's like your parents and my grandma and stuff also came here. Both my grandmas, they came here, they suffered, they struggled. The journey was long, and you're just going to waste it because for whatever reason, you're demotivated because the weather or because interest rates or because of this and that. Well, what can I do? What can I control in my little sphere of influence that I can control to better myself, better those around me? And like when I hear your story, I was saying this actually to the team, to Carson, before you came in. I said, you know, this guy's crushing it. Like he's the Minister of Education. You're probably the youngest Minister of Education ever.
I am certainly in Ontario's history.
In Ontario,
when I was appointed, that's true.
I look at that as like, that's amazing. We need young leaders. We need people that get it and understand people, right?
And I feel like the lesson from the past is perseverance, of never giving up. And I understand, like I'm not diminishing the challenges facing young people in our society. There are many of them. And even you turn on the news and the geopolitics, and there's war and there's division and there's challenges. But we still live in a free, democratic nation, the best country on earth. We still have an economy where, you know, if you're entrepreneurial, you're prepared to take risks, you can get rewarded. We still have a society where, you know, hard work pays off. I think there are challenges. I think that we got to fix those structural challenges. But I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of good that we still need to, you know, appreciate. And there's also a requirement for government to keep driving change to make life easier for young people. And I felt like I looked at our parliament, looked at our government, and I'm like, who speaks for us? You know, before I got elected in 2018, you know, people say like, why did you run at 31? Like, why do that now? And it's like, because I looked at government and I thought, who the heck is speaking for that generation of young people. The former government, I say this respectfully, like the former government, which we defeated in 2018 under Premier Wynne, they doubled the debt of the province. So now we have $1 billion in interest payments every month we burn. Like we just burn billions of dollars in just paying the interest on debt instead of servicing investments that matter: healthcare, education, infrastructure, subways, whatever, long-term care, tons of needs, schools. That bothered me. It bothered me that we had twice the rate of youth unemployment. It angered me that housing was so unattainable for young people then. And the problem, of course, it could get worse unless government intervenes. So I thought, I need to be there. Someone needs to be there that speaks for our generation of young people who want government to be on our side and off our back. A government that respects law-abiding, tax-paying people, and a government that rewards hard work. And so I thought, what do I have to lose? I care about our community. I was effectively, when I was 2, moved in here, born and raised in this community. I've got skin in the game and I want to make a difference. And instead of bitching about it and complaining about it and being on the sideline, sort of, annoyed always, I'd rather be an active participant and, throw myself into this because I believe in public service. And I actually, I've learned, you can't go along to get along. If you want to be a courageous or effective politician, you've got to take often difficult, sometimes inexpedient decisions, but that's leadership. And I think people want that. They want people that have the ability to sort of to stand up for their values. And I think we need more of that.
For sure. And you're speaking volumes to what we spoke about earlier about, there's so many challenges, right, that Canadians are facing, Ontarians are facing. And speak to us a little bit about the mindset that you need to have, on a day-to-day basis, because obviously your day looks a lot different than everyone else's day, right? Being the Minister of Education. Sure. If you had something to say to the young generation right now, even though there are challenges, what would you say to them regarding the mindset aspect of things?
I feel like, honestly, there are so many people, so many interests, so many entities in our own life, our own ecosystems that want to bring us down, right? Like maybe it's human nature. It's the sad reality of the world we live in. And it's always been the reality. And I think my message really to young people is to be so focused on your own personal mission, undeterred, unapologetically focused on achieving your mission, whatever that is. If it's selling homes and creating housing attainability to the next generation of families in the GTA, which is, in part your mission, that's a good mission. And you're focused on that and you're undeterred from that mission. And I feel like it's so easy to be sidetracked by that negativity, but I really try to condition myself and discipline myself to be a constructive, positive force in government. Look, in education, it's a tough one. I think it's, you agree with or disagree. I think we'd agree on this principle. It is one of the toughest ministries. It could be a tough role. And I've heard this, it's not my opinion. It's like my predecessors, the Liberals and NDP and Conservative former ministers of education I spoke to for advice saying, how did you do this? And they said it's a tough one. Run, don't do it. Sort of, some of them may have said, intimated maybe, but no, you gotta be prepared to run into the fire. You gotta be prepared to do the right things for the right reasons. And people, I think, will reward you, even if it's tough. And I just want young people to not lose the fire in their belly, because I feel like for our generation or that generation, maybe I'm being a bit generous here, my generation, but for that younger generation, they've almost, in some respects, given up. Yeah. I hear this language, I don't know, I'll be able to own a home, so I'll probably just rent. And don't get me wrong. I mean, we need rentals. But I feel like we can't lower the bar. Going back to the first principle of our immigrant stories, and probably for a lot of people watching, is they sacrifice so that we could have what they couldn't imagine. We cannot allow the first generation, the history of our country, to regress intergenerationally. We need to make sure that our kids' generation are better off than the generation before, and we have to fight to make sure of that. We can't allow regression after all the amazing work of our forefathers and mothers that worked so hard to do that, to allow us to be here. So that's why I insist that we got to build more homes. I insist that we've got to create opportunities. We've got to have better paying jobs. We've got to have an education system that emphasizes skills that actually matter in the labor market. Instead of teaching them theoretical concepts they're never going to use, let's make it more application-based, hands-on, real life skill sets that you could adopt in your life every day. And that's why I'm not giving up. And I want young people to not give up. I want them to be determined to succeed, because if they have that fire in their belly, they don't lose that passion. I actually believe, in this country, we're going to see another generation of successful entrepreneurs and public servants and whatever you decide, nonprofit, for-profit, skill trades, university, college. Like I'm agnostic. I just want you to do whatever you love and do it well. And so I always go to schools pushing that narrative of like, never give up, believe in yourself, believe in what is possible through hard work. And I see sometimes the mindsets change, and I just think as a society, for parents, for all of us, just to be instilling into that generation of young people, you can do this. Like, you can graduate, you can own a home, you can get a good job, and you could have a good life in this country. But I just think we have to say more of that. And, because when you turn on the news, it's like the headlines it's very doom and gloom. It's a very doom and gloom society. So let's just remind ourselves, let alone the people around us, the young people around us, that like, we're doing this for you and we believe in you.
And the other thing is, it's that like we're bombarded with so much information these days, and it's coming in to us and at us from, all angles, that it's like you hear something that's positive, you hear a positive message, and it's almost like, they're full of crap. And it's like, no, we have nothing to sell you. Like we're just talking because we want to try to create more awareness. And as you said, raise that bar, change your mentality, because it is possible. You're doing it, we're doing it, and I know a lot of other people are doing it. So you just have to find, like Jim Rohn says, this is one of my favorite lines. He goes, the things that are easy to do are also easy not to do, because they're so simple that if you wake up every morning, make your bed, get a workout in, pay attention to what it is that you want to do. Don't pay attention to your competitors or to anybody else or anything else. As you said, be like unwavering in your approach and your resilience and discipline. You could do it. It will work. It just works. There's no other way to explain it. Things start to happen. And it's weird because it's the same world that's around you. You're just looking at it and approaching it differently.
Yeah. Winston Churchill said, to be perfect is to change often. The idea of continuous improvement, of continuously challenging yourselves to be better. And I think if that's the mindset of the next generation of Canadians, like, we are well positioned as a democracy, as an economy, as a society, to just continue to be that example to the world of what's possible. So yeah, I mean, listen, I'm like an eternal optimist. I'm a realist. I know the world we live in. I worked in the federal government. I've got to do some amazing things in my travels around the world on behalf of the government of Canada. I've seen a lot, and I know I'm young. We have a lot more to see and experience. But I go back to the concept of just pride in this country. We really have something special here, and I think we got to be prepared to fight for preserving what makes this country the true north, strong and free, what makes this country the best country on earth. And I think the values of freedom, the fact that we, of our democracy, of human rights, of the rule of law, of foundational values that there's so many people around the world. And I mean, your own experiences from where your families are from, like, literally die for it. And I think it's like abstract for us to think about it. Like, we have people in North Korea who don't have access to basic necessities of life, authoritarian regimes that are inflicting, brutality on innocent people, often the most vulnerable in their societies. And it's a crazy world. So God bless Canada, our families, for coming here.
I love Canada.
And let's just work towards making it better. Let's unify behind that mission.
And I like what you said before, like, have a mission that is worth fighting for, right? Like, for the young people. If I find a lot of people right now don't have that hope, right? But you got to go out and find it, right? And see what makes, what's important to you as a Canadian, right? And but
like, that also means the education system needs to be helping young people find a path that they want.
That's true.
We had a whole system that everyone had to become a lawyer in Ontario. Everyone had to be an accountant. Everyone had to go to university. And I went to Western, I went to UT. I'm proud of those experiences. They worked for me, but for other members of my family, it was a college pathway or it was a skilled trades pathway. And I feel like we need to lean into supporting whatever that your son or daughter wants to achieve.
For sure.
And we have to destigmatize other paths, because often the skilled trades path right now, that's where the money's at, where the opportunity's at. And look, I come from an immigrant family. I don't know if you guys would have a similar experience. Like, my parents, they wanted me to go to university. The metric of their success was simple. You got to go to university, particularly U of T. For whatever reason, they're very obsessed with U of T. Like that's the gold standard. And they wanted me to stay close to home, which I'm sure you're not surprised by. So I went to Western, irrespective of their opinions. But I guess all in all, our school system really is where a lot of these ideas and where the imagination is possible. And we do amazing things in our schools. We can do amazing things. We need to make sure young people have good paths, and we have to make sure that what we teach kids is relevant to the labor market. We had a math curriculum. When I came in, the math curriculum under the former government had been not updated in like 13 years.
That's
so
crazy.
The old math curriculum didn't mention AI at all, didn't mention coding, didn't mention financial literacy as a mandate of learning. It didn't mention any technology, any disruption in the economy. It didn't even mention things like, like by the time the curriculum was updated, the iPhone had been launched. It wasn't relevant. Twitter had been launched. YouTube had not been launched, and yet the curriculum was still static.
That's
like
crazy.
The world changed, and yet this document that every child in Ontario was learning in math and science had been like 10 plus years old. So I got in there thinking, that's a problem. It is SWOT analysis of what are the gaps systemically that are holding these kids back. I think when they're learning a curriculum of an economy that existed like 12 years ago, that's a problem. So we've modernized the curriculum. We've really been a leader in the nation on making sure what we teach young people are life and job skills and connected to the labor market so they have a competitive advantage when they graduate. I don't want to see young people staying in their parents' basements, this idea of the not being able to achieve and sort of that vertical growth that we want for young people. Like this is an opportunity society, but so much of what was holding them back, I think, was happening in our curriculum. So now we've modernized it, we've overhauled it. And we're really now leading in the nation on teaching skills that I think matter. And financial literacy, I know, is something you guys are passionate about. I'm passionate about that because I believe in personally responsible young people that understand, if I could take a little bit of a side message to the federal government, like budgets don't balance themselves. Like you do need personal discipline. You need to know how to live within your means. You need to understand the concept of interest. And so I'm happy that in the new curriculum, we now teach young people about personal budgeting. We teach them about how to about mortgages, about interest rates. We have a whole section on interest and credit, on sort of how to manage your own personal budgets. We now require young people before they graduate to literally build a budget for the year after graduation, be it for university or housing costs. Like it's practical, it's hands-on, it's usable. And it's stuff that we didn't learn.
No,
that I wished we learned. We learned it elsewhere. Maybe our families helped us. Maybe we did it ourselves. But we shouldn't depend on that. That should be like basic knowledge in the curriculum. We now mandate every child has to learn how to code. Only the United Kingdom, a few East Asian societies, they do this. Like we're now part of the cutting edge generation of teaching young people skills that are going to be really monetizable. We now in the early grades of elementary school, we start teaching basic robotic skills. So now they're learning how to literally, now in elementary school, like you almost want to go back. They'll build a robot, and then they've now through coding, they know how to program the robot and move it in whatever direction they want. And that's
insane.
But why I think you're seeing that is because it's like cool for the kids,
Really cool.
It's making what was maybe boring yesterday cool tomorrow and making it relevant for them where they're passionate. I've been in classes where I've seen the kids, they collaborate, they're working together, they're challenging each other. And it becomes almost like one of these sort of like, one of these, when you go into one of those entrepreneur sort of eco zones or one of those entrepreneur zones, that exist that really try to incubate ideas. Like you're seeing small, young versions of that. And for me, it's like I'm trying to think 10, 20 years down the road, like where are these young people going to be? And they're going to be in a good place because they're leading. And I think my whole mission is to make sure that we graduate young people with that competitive advantage where I know in absolute confidence that these people can compete with anyone in the world. We have work to do, got to keep improving the system. But I think if we teach young people those foundational skills and they master them in reading, writing, and math, if we get back to the basics in our schools, I have a lot of hope that really anything is possible for them.
That's huge, man. Considering like that hit home for me just because I really hated school growing up.
Right.
And I really felt like it was so boring and not applicable and it just not engaging. So when I hear things like that, it puts a smile on my face because I'm like, wow, like other kids are not getting the same education that I got, 10, 15 years ago. It's much more advanced now, and it's funner, it's more engaging, right?
It is.
So that's crazy,
but
that's
but
awesome.
when, just so you know, I don't know if you remember, you were too young. Like, he really hated school. Like, people say I hate school. No, my mom had a problem with him taking him to school. Like, it was that serious. And even in university, he wanted to. He wanted to drop out.
Yeah, I wanted to
At
drop out.
first year.
Like a lot of people, I feel like that's a story a lot of people
It
relate to.
is.
So it's like it's totally.
So I dragged him. I said, "You're not going to drop out. Do what you got to do."
Are you the older brother?
I'm older, but
the good older brother keeping
bro.
you in line. Big bro. I have a big bro too, so that's an important part of. We know our roles.
Oh,
Like,
for sure, 100%.
But you know what? I hated school too. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't really go to lectures in university. I didn't do these things because a lot of it wasn't applicable. Like, I was working 2 jobs. I was volunteering in the schools because I was trying to apply to teachers college. Yeah, so I graduated with my BEd. I have it to be like a certified high school teacher. But as I'm volunteering and paying for tuition and I'm waiting tables and stuff, I'm like, how do you get ahead? Like, how do you really get ahead? So I was trying to learn about finance and money and real estate and stuff like that at a younger age.
You did it yourself.
Yeah, because our parents didn't know, and it's not their fault. Like English was a second language, not
They
even
taught us a
fourth
lot.
language for them.
They taught us a lot.
Taught us a lot,
Even in
yeah.
that world of like being
so much.
like, I wouldn't say frugal, but like living within your means. Really, I would say frugal for my grandparents.
yeah.
Like they literally did a lot with less.
Yes,
And
I agree.
Crazy levels of how they were much more efficient. Everything is recycled. Like everything.
100%.
But you know what? Like, you know, there's some lessons in there too for our generation. But
Sure.
But I like that you learned it. You found a path to learn it outside of school, and you know I liked school. But I'd say I learned a lot more out of school, to be honest with you. And I say that that's not a comment on like I didn't have a good school experience. It just I learned so much about leadership, about personal development, about goal setting, about the idea of failing and being prepared to get back up and try it again. That resilience came from the leadership experiences I had in university or even high school, but outside of the classroom. Still part of that learning experience, like the clubs, the extracurriculars, that stuff really propelled me. And I think I say to a lot of young people, like, yeah, I mean, of course, academics matter, of course, but you learn also outside the classroom. And to be a well-rounded student, it's like you can't just kill it on your, you know, on your GPA and then have no experience. You know, you did volunteering. Like, if you don't have any of that, then you don't have that well-rounded experience. Yeah. So, and employers are looking for that. They want those soft skills. They want people who are engaged, who have sort of a charitable focus or involved in nonprofit or involved in whatever. So I encourage young people to do that. And we still have 40 hours of community service. You know, a lot of young people did a lot of that over the past few years. And it's good to see that because they're building skills, they're building a network, and frankly, often paths to jobs that they wouldn't have really realized unless they did those things.
Yeah. And you've made, like, thanks to a lot of your changes with the financial literacy, that's what's, you know, teachers have reached out to us. Do you want to come and present to our students? And we've gone in there and we've done that. It's a way like we give back at Millennial's Choice, you know, and we talk about the mortgage side and budgeting and finance. And we notice that in the classrooms, both of us, we talk about it at the end and we say, these kids, like, the future is bright. The future is bright when we see them. And I saw that and I said, wow, you know, sometimes we're confined to like looking at our own little cousins when we see them. And it's like, what are you guys doing with your lives? You know, like you're not sure. But then when you go into a classroom and there's 30 or 35 kids in there and you're like, wow, a lot of them understand this stuff. A lot of them get it and they want to do better. They just want someone to lead them. They want someone to teach them. And that's what you're doing. And that's what we're trying to do with our show and all that stuff as well. So you've made some awesome changes. One, I would say more recent changes about the mental health for intermediate students. Talk to us about that because that's so important.
Yeah, I think it is. And for me, you know, we have to have, for students to succeed, you know, they need to be mentally, physically healthy. They need to be in a good place. And, you know, we live in a crazy world. The pandemic obviously only compounded some of the challenges. We have to be compassionate. You know, I'm a compassionate conservative. I really believe in, you know, helping those that just can't help themselves. And for young people who are facing that angst, the pressure, you know, a world where we see very high levels of bullying and just real challenges in our schools, it's incumbent on us to make sure they have access to mental health supports. And part of it is massively increasing the funding and the staffing available to ensure if a young child, if you're a parent watching, your kid is facing some difficulty, that they can pivot and get access to a support, a psychologist, a social worker, a psychotherapist, whatever, child and youth worker, that they know in this community in York and frankly across Ontario that the funding is massively increased. I mean, just for context, when we started in 2018, the former government was investing about $18 million on school-based mental health. Today, it's over $110 million. We're talking about over a 500% net increase in funding. But even beyond the money, because that is important. That's a huge, we have the largest investment in mental health in the country of any province. I'm proud of that. But even beyond the investment, it's what we're teaching kids. One of my proudest moments was mandating in every single grade mandatory learning on mental health and how we intersect mental health skills, like those managing of stress skills in the life of a student through academics and even in their jobs. So we just announced with a friend of mine, Natalie Pierre, she's a member of parliament from Burlington, faced some real difficulty in her life, and really was motivated following the tragedy in her life of wanting to really make sure that the kids who face difficulty, that they know they can turn somewhere. And that means we need to make sure that there's mental health literacy. We really need young people to know who to turn to if, God forbid, they face that difficulty, for other young people to know the signs, to understand the difference between the illness, different illnesses, and really just to appreciate coping skills to deal with stress, to deal with life. That's like a life skill that I think young people could use throughout.
I agree.
So we mandated in elementary and in high school new literacy requirements for mental health. That's like a toolkit. It's really designed to be a toolkit of what can we provide to young people and how to manage, from mindfulness to a variety of other steps that could help young people succeed, stay focused, be calm, be supported, and know that if it gets to a point where maybe they can't manage it themselves, that they know with precision where they can turn in their community. Because look, we live in a world where we still face we see a lot of tragedy. We see youth suicides and just things that are very devastating, very sad. And we want to prevent that. We want young people to know, like in the darkest of their moments, like they're not alone, and I feel like we all have a role to play in that. And I was inspired by my colleague from her own experience to do something about it. I'm like, my God, like I can't even imagine how catastrophic that is for someone. So, it's like, again, it goes back to that principle of trying to see the light in the darkness. It's like, what can we do so that no one else has to experience such sadness? And I was proud to do it with her. We did it in partnership with leaders in children and youth mental health, the Children's Health Coalition, and a variety of other pediatric hospitals are working with us. The big ones are School Mental Health Ontario and the Hospital for Sick Children and Sick Kids. They're both reviewing our curriculum. They'll be coming on board for this September and next September.
Okay, cool.
So we're leveraging like the best in the business, solid, committed, and I think it's going to be a really good product. But again, it all goes back to keeping kids safe and recognizing that, physical health of course matters. I'm a big proponent of physical health because, kids are staying home, they're sedentary, they're not moving around much, they're not doing as much sport. Concerned about that. But I think top of mind for me is just making sure that if you're a kid in a school, that you're loved, you're supported, that there's resources if you need it, and exactly where you can turn if you feel like you just can't manage it yourself. And I think that's responsibility of any adult, but it's the right thing to do. And I think a lot of other provinces are taking note of what Ontario's doing, saying like, we got to step it up, and we're going to keep stepping it up because, I think this is an issue where like you can never do enough. We just got to keep pushing, keep investing, keep supporting, and also helping to train the teachers too, because they have a challenging job too. And I want to make sure they're set up for success. So really good training for them as well by the leaders from School Mental Health Ontario. It's going to go a long way. I think they welcome the opportunity to be better, to be more effective, to be more supportive of these kids when they face those difficult moments.
That's amazing. So I think social media plays a huge role when it comes to mental health challenges with especially the younger generation. Do you potentially foresee any legislation in the next, decade or so kind of talking about social media education and how, things of that nature? Because obviously young people see what people are posting and, as a result, it's like, I want what that person has, but we all know it's fake. and it's just made up, right? Just to get views and for things like that. Do you think
turn off the comments?
Yeah. Do you think anything like that is going to come up when it comes to future legislation in education?
We did. So the first curriculum I reformed was the health and physical education curriculum. And in that curriculum, I mandated learning on essentially the ills of social media, on cyberbullying, cyber protection, on security online. There's a great increase in proliferation of predatory adults that are taking advantage of kids online. So we're really learning about how young people understand who they're talking to protect their own privacy. And to your point, to understand the personal responsibility of engaging with people they know. So we've now mandate learning on that. We've done that for a few years now. I did that in 2019. That's going to help. But in addition, we've been talking about in Ontario, just to parents about the importance of making sure that there's some regulation there, because I'm of a generation, we're of a generation where social media has been part of our success in telling our story, but it also could be weaponized as a very problematic tool. Look on TikTok, what young people are seeing is could be very challenging, and I think it's just very it's tough when you see young people who are turning to these platforms, often learning through TikTok, which is in itself maybe an oxymoron. Maybe learning how to plant your garden, I suppose. Like you can Google that, you could do that, but on like fundamental life skills, like I wouldn't go there. So, but that's the reality of young people. So we're trying to say to we're trying to say to kids, like, to do better research. We actually teach in our civics curriculum for the first time, like civics and careers. Everyone used to say like, oh, those are bird courses, or like I modernize both, because I actually think they should be serious courses. Like they really should be serious. I'm not saying they have to be like the most challenging. This isn't your algebra class, but it's meant to be thought provoking. Yeah. What's the path you want to lead from a career perspective, and what's the government you want to see represent you in Queen's Park, at City Hall, or in Parliament? And how do we make government and democracy relevant to people? So part of the civics element is talking about the growth of online news sources and the necessity to really scrutinize and to do your due diligence when you're reading stuff online. And I think that's important. Like that's a fundamental skill of a nation, if their citizens know exactly what they're reading and who they're reading it from. So misinformation, disinformation, there's all types of crazy things happening online. You just open it up today and you could see it. So we're trying to build those skills. I would argue they're almost civic engagement skills as well, to buttress against some of the stuff we see in other parts of the world where it could really impact your democracy. I want Canadians to safeguard those values, and obviously young people are on the front line of that. But in school, we're pretty clear on this. Like we want kids, we really want their cell phones off the desk to the extent that it's possible. We want kids focused on learning. I know, Matthew, you're not leading by example right now, but put it away. But like actually, like it's like, and so it's tough for the teachers because then they use it for research, they use it for calculators. So, but it's a challenge. But I just to the extent possible, I love young kids to go into school and just be inspired from their teacher. And we all know a good teacher literally changes a life. Oh yeah, for sure. And many years ago, I was so concerned by the way we were hiring educators. I respect what they do. A lot of my family are teachers. Like, I think overwhelmingly good people. They're there for the right reason. They love the kids. They're passionate about education. They change lives. So like, I want to just give them a ton of love going into the summer at the end of the school year. It's been a good year, long year, enjoy that summer break, and let's be motivated to come back with full energy in September, 100% committed to these kids. But, we used to hire in Ontario based on their seniority in their union, not based on their qualification or their merit. That seems so antithetical. Like if you're a parent, like, what do you mean? You didn't hire that person based on their merit or based on their qualification? No, we hired them based on their seniority in the union. And that seems counter to any other world on earth where you rise in your enterprise based on your production, based on your experience, based on your ability to demonstrate a capacity to do your craft well. Yeah. Not just because of your years of service or your time on earth. That's not a sufficient metric of your capacity and of your ability to impact change, in this case for these kids. Like we're talking about like young people, right? So that's was designed maybe by and for the union, but not really for kids. And so I intervened and I abolished that regulation. We now hire in the province. A great achievement in Ontario is reverting to a meritocracy where the best teacher gets the job, not just anyone, but someone who's highly qualified and with a real track record of making a difference. When we're looking for a math educator, I don't want the list that the principal gets from the school board because of this old system to be the 5 most tenured teachers, none of whom have a math teachable. None of them have their specialization in math. So you could have a 25-year, English teacher or physical education teacher like now is put on their priority list, just the way the system used to work. I'm like thinking like, what is going on? Like,
doesn't make sense, yeah.
So it's okay. He's a 20-year English teacher, but there's a 12-year math teacher who's super effective, passionate, maybe younger, but skilled and demonstrably skilled. And that person always got sort of shafted, and I know a lot of young teachers, young people who haven't been hired. It takes years to get a job. This is changing in Ontario because of the abolition of Regulation 274, and I'm happy because young teachers get an opportunity, a fighting chance to succeed because they have a lot to offer too. Yeah. So we're trying to change the culture in the system where it's more results focused. It's more about doing the right thing for kids and standing up to a lot of the interests that sort of want to keep the status quo. I look, we do good work in schools, but we still have EQAO rates where reading, writing, and math skills are regressing, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. We've got to do something different. So I said to the government, we just passed a bill, the Better Schools and Student Outcomes Act, that is singularly designed on refocusing the system on back to basics, back to what matters. Mm-hmm. Young people can't read, they can't write, they aren't mathematically competent. They're not going to be, the great change makers of the world if we don't get the fundamentals right. And parents want us to go back to basics, and we hear them. So we're now saying to the school board, you must, by law, revert to those priorities. Academic achievement is what matters most. And I think we do that. We increase the support in mental health. We keep teaching young people about personal responsibility, mathematical competence. We emphasize STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math, and more skilled trades. And we continue to create an environment where kids feel safe. They could be respected. They could succeed. I don't care about your faith, your heritage, your orientation, your color of skin, wherever you're born. Like in this country, this is a place for you to succeed. And I want every child, every student to feel that passion that they could achieve in this country. If we do that, then we've done our job as a society and as a government. And I know I still have work to do, but I'm proud of what we're doing. And I'm grateful to work with the Premier. He's very committed to this generation, very committed to building homes, very committed to making sure that housing attainability is not a distant, memory of the generation before. He wants, your kids one day to own a home. And we're determined to build 1.5 million homes, to cut through the red tape and get on with building homes, building communities, and building hope for these kids. I say kids, but for young people who are in a basement today of their parents, trying to figure out how many decades it's going to take to put a down payment towards a home. That's not acceptable. And we're going to challenge the status quo. We're going to challenge cities and anyone else who's trying to roadblock our plan to build homes, build communities, and frankly, give young people the confidence that if they work hard, they can achieve the Canadian dream. Home ownership, a good life, safety, security, freedom, and, retire one day with dignity. If we can think about our moments where we laugh about our ages today, but when there's a lot more grays on us. And I think that's the dream we're on. That's the mission I'm on. And I'm going to keep working hard to do that for the people of this community.
That was well said.
Very well said. And you've been very generous with your time. And you brought up Mr. Ford. So just in wrapping,
sure,
just a one-liner about what you see from Premier Ford that we don't see on the cameras or on the news. Just a one-liner of his character, who he is, in wrapping.
Among the most humble, normal, decent people I've worked with in my life, no pretense, wants to be called Doug with everyone, would take the shirt off his, literally take the shirt off his back. He's, he comes from a family history where they've got that people, client focused. It's all about like the end result. and he always says to us, like, we are in a customer service business. When someone calls you, you call them back. You go to their house, and so he leads by example. He's a good guy, and he's actually I think people got to see a bit of this side, but he's like a pretty relaxed guy. He's a funny guy. He's a sense of humor. He's a parent. One day he's gonna be a grandparent. He's been very good to me. He motivates on tough days. He'll give you a call, say Lecce, as he calls me. Lecce. You're doing okay, buddy. Don't worry. And then not many bosses, honestly, in a lot of societies, let alone in government, or a lot of enterprises, let alone in government, like that doesn't happen. Like I've been involved in politics for almost my entire life. Since 1999, when I was very young, 13, for Al Palladini. Very seldom that someone calls on a human level to check in. Like he cares, and I value that, and I really do. It's a good characteristic of a leader.
Well, Minister, you've been generous with your time. Thank you for coming on the show. I think this has been like enormously valuable to our audience, and we'd like to do it again soon.
Well, not too soon, okay? But I'll come back. I'll definitely come back.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
again for your time.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys, we're out.